Coming to the next problem, which of the following statements are true? Shortest remaining time first scheduling may cause starvation, or preemptive scheduling may cause starvation. Round robin is better than FCFS, first come first serve, in terms of response time. And then we have to choose the correct choice. Okay, so shortest remaining time first. Okay, so which scheduling is this? Okay, you have all these processes with their remaining times, and when a process executes, its time keeps on decreasing. Okay, so can it cause starvation? Starvation means that there is some process that never gets to run in CPU. Okay, so it's never given to the CPU, or the CPU is never given to that process. Yeah. So that's starvation. Okay, so can you have starvation in this case? So think about this thing. Okay, think about a situation when you have many processes, and there is some process, let's say some process pi, which has a very long CPU time. Okay, it needs a very long CPU burst, and what happens is that all these processes keeps on coming that have very short CPU burst time. Okay, CPU burst. All other processes have short CPU burst. So think about this case. And so what will happen in this case? So this is processes, my writing is bad. So all these other processes, they have very short CPU burst. So this long process will never get the CPU, because the priority will be given to these processes with short CPU burst, and they'll keep on coming. Suppose they keep on coming, and this process, this pi, never gets the CPU. So this process will starve. That's starvation. Okay, this process never get to run on CPU. It's always waiting, or in the queue. Not waiting, it's in the queue. So yeah, this is true. This thing is true, definitely. And preemptive scheduling may cause starvation. Is this thing true? What about this second thing? Uh, so in this second thing, what happens in preemptive scheduling is that if a process is running, some process may come and preempt that process. Preempt means that it can kick out that process and it starts itself running. So suppose P1 is running in CPU, and what happens is P2 comes. P2 says, okay, kick out. P2 kicks this process out and runs itself on the CPU. So that's preemption. So in preemptive scheduling, you can definitely have starvation. Think about priorities. Okay, think about priorities. So if suppose there is a process that has a very low priority, okay, and all these other processes have higher priorities. So what will happen is these processes will come and keep taking the CPUs, but this process that has low priority, that will never get the CPU. Okay, so low priority process will starve in those cases. Okay, in preemptive scheduling cases. So yeah, so this thing is true as well, and you know that this is true. And what about this third thing? Round robin is better than first come first serve in terms of response time. So out here there are three things. So round robin, what happens in round robin, you have these many processes and you give them chunks of time. Okay, so you say, okay, the first process will run for 2 seconds. Okay, and then the next process will run for 2 seconds, and the third process will run for 2 seconds, and so on. And once all these processes have run for 2 seconds, then the first process can come and again start running for 2 seconds. That's round robin. You give them 2 seconds, 2 seconds to all of them, and you repeat this cycle again and again. This is round robin. And first come first serve, you know, the process that comes first, that will take the CPU and gets completed, and only then the second process will be allowed to run. That is first come first serve. It's like in your daily life when you see first come first serve. And then you have something called response time. So what is response time? So response time is the time uh, when the process starts giving some response. Okay, that means that when the process gets the CPU. Okay, So round robin is better or not? That's what we have to answer. And it turns out that RR is better. Round robin is better because if you give small time chunks to these processes, let's say you have 3 processes, okay. A process needs 10 CPU time units, the other process needs 20 CPU times units, and the third process needs 30 CPU time units, okay. And suppose you have round robin, and in round robin you give a time chunk of 1 second, okay, this time quantum slice of 1 second, okay. The first one will run for 1 second, and the second one, and the third one. So in that case the response time will be better, because after 1 second the second will be allowed to run, and after another 1 second the third will be allowed to run. So this will respond after 1 second, and this will respond after 2 seconds. But in case of first come first serve, for first 10 seconds only this process will be running, okay. The first response from this process will come after 10 seconds, okay, and the first response from this process will come after 10 plus 20, that is 30 seconds. So it's a lot of time. So that means round robin is better in terms of response time. You get early responses from all your processes in round robin, and this is true as well, which means all of these are true, and that is option D.